Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. Man, it's
we got some screwed up weather here, man.
It's a summer day in the middle of fall.
Yeah, what is up with that?
I don't know, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Ooh, I'll take it all day long.
Yeah.
All day.
Hey, guess what?
We have to thank the listeners?
Always thank the listeners. Thank you, guys.
See, I knew this. I knew this.
And you're visiting the old ampsandaxescast.com, and you're clicking on all the banners, including that Amazon banner.
That's right.
It's the same drill. I mean, maybe I should just have a little recorded thing, just stick it up there. What do you think?
Hit Amazon, buy your stuff.
Yes, and go out to iTunes, give us the 5 stars, only 5 stars.
Only 5.
Please.
We try for 5.
We try.
Hopefully we achieve 5-star status.
Yeah.
In either the love or hate vein, so.
Exactly.
Give us all 5.
Yes, and you guys send in your comments. We love that.
Yes.
And there was a comment that I got the other day, and we tried to. I was going to put it in This Week in Music.
Okay.
But we couldn't do it this week, and the reason that it was is because, well, we didn't start at the 28th of October. We started at, I think, the 31st. However the week falls, we don't capture every 7 days. We're not.
It's weird, but okay.
Yes. Anyway, so our good buddy, Mr. Paul White.
Okay.
He corresponds with me every now and then. And he said, for the week of the 29th, I just wanted to give this, Rush releases Hemispheres on October 29th of 1978 and Power Windows on October 29th, 1985.
Wow. Good day for them.
Yeah.
It's a good day of the month and the week for them.
Obviously.
I don't know how I missed that, but hey, thank you, Rush.
Remember, it fell forward. You know, it fell prior to
I don't know.
So, yeah.
I obviously fell on my face.
Well, no, we can't look.
It's. But thank you for the update. Thank you for the update.
So that's two little things there.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. See, people listen.
Yeah, they do, and we appreciate you guys doing that.
And they give us information. They update us.
Yeah.
And call us out when necessary.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what else? One last thing is, we need you guys to support this in the sense of you're our promotion.
Right.
So if you're not telling your friends,
who is?
Then yeah, exactly.
Who is? We don't know your friends.
I checked in to putting an ad on the moon.
On the moon.
Definitely against the law.
Really?
So
okay.
That's not going to happen anytime
soon. So anything short of that, you guys can help us with.
Yeah, because see, I could put a billboard like on our roads here in Maryland. It wouldn't make squat to a guy that lives in, in New Guinea or something.
Right,
I mean, it just wouldn't work.
But he'd have to have an awfully powerful telescope to read the billboard on the moon. So I'm not sure that's going to pay off either.
Well, I figured every full moon we'd have a full ad.
Oh, there you go. You just have to write very big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, I was thinking half.
Just half the moon?
Well, the side that matters.
Right, the side that matters. Exactly.
Or, hey, you know what? We could take the dark side because the Amps and Axis logo is black with the...
That's true.
I'll stop now.
Dark side's cheaper, too. Anyway, tell your friends.
Yes,
if you don't, who will?
Exactly.
We don't know your friends. We can't tell them.
Also, when you're on the page, make sure you scroll down because our good buddy from last week.
Jason Saditas from last week. That's right.
He gives us...
Quick click.
There you go. Just check his stuff out. Always click on his stuff. Go to his YouTube page and all that. It's all out there.
Right.
Everything is on the website. Go there.
He plays a different guitar every week, too. I don't know how he does it.
Yes.
Anyway, before we get to our guest of the week, on a sad note, we have to say R.I.P. to Mr. Larry Rodgers. Larry was one of the first guys that really made a mark in like the vintage, especially Fenders, vintage covering and reproduction cabinets and things like that. He had a couple of different locations on the East Coast. I think the last one was probably Florida. I think he was in Florida and the Carolinas. I'm not sure. But over time, he moved from one place to another. But Larry recently, a few days ago, passed on. Oh, and he garnered one hell of a reputation in this business for being the guy you go to get your Fender cabinet restored or a new one built. Made the proper way, covered the proper way. He actually had a good thing going for a long time. A lot of guys liked to play Fender basement heads, but with guitar.
Sure.
So he actually developed a combo sized perfectly for the basement heads, and you would send him your like blackface or blonde basement head, and it would come back as a combo.
Wow.
And he was the first guy I knew doing that. I'm sure other people do it now, but he was the first guy that was doing that, and he was really early in the vintage market. If guys had beat up stuff, he was making it right and doing it right. He also was one that started the Vintage Fender amps, Vintage Fender Amplifiers buy and sell page on Facebook.
Oh,
so he started that. He's had that going too. But sadly he passed on. So R.I.P. Mr. Larry Rodgers, and all the best to your family and the countless number of friends you've made over the years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So R.I.P.
Yeah, guys like that, you just, you think they're going to be around forever.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's like nobody else picks up the ball for that kind of thing. So now it's like, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right? And that
I mean, I know there are other guys.
Oh, yeah, there's other guys
building
out
and
there.
covering, but
he was probably the most known.
He was one of the first when, where do I go to have this, repaired or made to look like new? And, Larry was one of the first guys. Everybody goes, oh, send it to Larry.
Nah.
So,
man.
Well, thanks for being here, Larry.
Yeah, man.
And I hope the next go around is even better.
Yeah. He'll have no wrinkles in the Tolex where he's going.
That is for sure.
There you go.
That's for sure. I like that. I like that. All right, so we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come back with our guest of the week,
a reoccurring guy,
another recur.
Yeah.
Guest.
This is going to be a little bit different, by the way.
Yeah. You guys got something worked out.
Yes. Yeah. This is going to be cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. We have never done it on this level.
Okay.
So I think everybody's going to enjoy this one.
I'm ready to be surprised and impressed.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break and come back with a recurring guest of the week, Mr. Greg Marra.
Hi, this is Jason Sudeikis, and you're listening to the Amps and Axes show with my good friends Mick and Jeff.
Okay, and we are back with our guest of the week, a recurring guest.
Yeah.
And Mick and Greg have something cool worked out, so we're gonna get to it. So please welcome back to the show, Mr. Greg Marra. Greg, how are you?
Good. How's it going, guys?
It's going great, man. How about you?
Doing great over here. All
right.
So I always tell you, Greg and I, we constantly are texting and
okay.
Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I kind of deactivated my account. Mm-hmm. It was getting too much social media stuff, But we text each other back and forth, and we were talking. And I said to Greg, man, look, you got this new album coming out, mm-hmm. which he's going to talk about. I said, but you got the whole Fishman endorsement, and you do the fractal thing, and you have all these capabilities. I said, why don't we kind of do something that we don't do on the show, which is have him play some stuff, kind of demo some things, mm-hmm. and of course, bring us up to speed. So as you can hear in the background, he's just noodling away.
Getting warmed up.
Mr. Greg Noodles Marra.
But one thing that I did want to ask you, Greg, before we get going, take us to how did you get to play bass for Paul Gilbert?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I signed on with Ibanez last year, and there was a dealer that was setting up a clinic, and I happened to be good friends with Paul Holgate, who is sales for Ibanez as well as Sabian and some other companies. And when they were setting it up, I think they were messing with me, but they said, do you know of anybody that would want to play bass for Paul's clinic? And I was just like, that's a no-brainer. I mean, it's me. Of course it's me. I said, don't call anybody else. I'll learn everything he wants to play, and we'll go for it. So that's how that happened.
That is so cool.
Nice.
And cool, there, I see this video online, because everybody's got a cell phone, right? And they're all posting it. And I go, I think that's Greg playing the Lemon Song on bass. And sure enough, it was Greg.
Nice.
And that's a pretty, that's a little bit of a pill to swallow, that song, because that's a very complicated bass line.
Yeah.
He did it perfect.
Sucked. Yeah. Yeah, I bet that sucked. Well, I mean, there's two less strings, but they are bigger, so that makes up for it.
Right.
But, just it was an awesome performance. I would like to have been there for that, man.
That's a great bass line, man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Wow.
It was cool. I'd met Paul before, but never like this. And, we play with some of the same people. And it was kind of cool because I had just started my relationship with Ibanez as far as like the business side of it and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a cool, it was like a nice padding, nice confidence thing for me. And then I play with Bruce Bouillet, so of course he's the other half of Racer X. So that made it easy. It was kind of a nice like breaking the ice. When you first shake the guy's hand and there's only you and him in a room together, and you're going, well, crap. I remember being 16 listening to Racer X, and you don't want to revert back to that 16-year-old in your head when you meet someone for the first time. But it was really cool, and Paul's like, man, he's like one of the nicest guys. It was such an awesome experience.
Nice.
And we had Paul on the show, and I think I even said this when we talk to his publicist. They always come in, they go, okay, you can have like 15 minutes with him, and our interviews are always a lot longer than that. And when we got him on the phone, now this is not on the actual recording, I said to him, Paul, are you? Do you have to leave after 20?
We got like a hard 15
he
with
was
you?
Like, no, man, you guys have got me. He goes, you're my only interview.
That's right. Whatever you want to do, man. Whatever you want to do.
I was just like, well, you're never getting off the phone.
Yeah. He was a
cool
great guy.
Yeah.
Great interview. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Excellent.
Yeah, he's real cool like that. He just we sat and talked about Paul McCartney's bass lines, and it's funny because whenever we were sitting there, it was all day. It was like a full day with him. And then before we went on, you could see he's kind of pre-gaming, so he has things planned out, I think, that he's going to say for his clinic. And I feel like he was kind of running them by me, like he was saying them to me, like, because I heard him say the same things later, like an hour later. So I was just kind of sitting there listening to it and going, all right, whatever he has to say, man. Of course, I've got 1,000 questions I'd like to ask him about Racer X and Mr. Big, but just let him take it, But we talked about some of the things back then. I think I talked to you guys last year, and I was saying some of the Heart of the Lion stuff that were Paul's parts. There's like, you got to stretch from the 9 to 12 to 15 for some of these things, and it's impossible. I just couldn't do it when I was playing with Bruce. And I asked Paul, hey, man, what was up with that lick or whatever? I said, I had to tap it. And, honestly, it was like I was looking at him, and he's like, oh, you mean this? And, it's like his hands are freakish, man. It's like twice the amount of stretch in his hand that I would even ever have. But, yeah, it's just amazing to feel like you're standing 5 feet away from someone that in your head you played it over and over and over, but to see the guy do it, you're going, well, it's just another talent that I just don't have. He's just amazing, just really great.
No wonder why I can't do that. You had extra fingertips put on. He's got like a whole nother knuckle probably of fingertip on him. Either that or he plays a 3/4 scale guitar.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He's got, he can palm a basketball, but not only that, he can touch his thumb and ring finger,
Yeah, he must have basketball player hands. It must be amazing for him to sit there and go, "Oh, this," and you go, "Oh, yeah,
that's that easy,
of course,
right? For everybody, it's that easy.
Of course, it's that easy.
Yeah, I'll still be tapping
it. Yeah, we'll be tapping it.
Yep.
Jesus.
Wow.
So you've got some new material coming out, man. Have you been working on that for a while, or is it just the gates open and the stream of consciousness flow, or how did this all come about?
Yeah. Well, the new song is called Another Bad Day, and it's got some traction right now overseas in Indonesia, where I think we're up to like 30,000 hits on the song, the video that we put out.
Oh, nice.
And that thing, all of a sudden, within a week, I think a couple people had followed me on Facebook, just on my regular page. And then all of a sudden, it was like, within a couple days, it was like 10,000 hits. And I kind of thought it might be a mistake or something. Like, how in the world is this happening? And then when you look, you can see all the people that liked your video, and it was all from Indonesia. And I just thought, this is crazy, And I was talking to Andy Alt, who does a lot of marketing for Steve Vai. We met up at the Steve Vai show in Ventura, and I was asking him about some marketing stuff. And he said, Steve's big in Indonesia and some of these countries that you wouldn't expect that type of music to be big, but that's one of the countries, like Mexico and, of course, Japan and stuff. But I don't know, man. There must be a lot of guitar fans over in Indonesia that I had no idea. But
they make a lot of guitars,
Yeah.
They make a ton of guitars, so I maybe they're fans.
I smell a tour.
But
man, I'm in. Yeah, I would love to.
We actually interviewed Andy.
Yeah.
On the show.
Yeah.
And, he's got the Little Thunder. I always like to say that.
Oh, yeah.
That Little Thunder thing is crazy. You have to be really good to use that.
Yeah.
But he's a marketing machine, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's really cool to talk to because he, he's right there in the seat, but yet he doesn't make you feel like you can't ask him questions about like trade secrets or anything. I've always felt really comfortable around Andy just because you can talk to him and say, hey, what do you think about if I went this direction? And he said, no, that's a good idea or it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
Cool guy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And very forthcoming with what he knows.
Yeah. And, he was like really excited to see us. It was like.
That's right. We went, we saw him at NAMM.
Yeah, at NAMM. And, it's like, I don't know what it is about that guy, but he's just so friendly. It's like, I just want to hug him.
Yeah.
Give me a bear hug.
He just like has that thing about him that it's so inviting. And I don't know, he's got that personality. It's, he's another one every now and then I get a message from.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, man.
So the new video that you put out, what was the recording process for that?
Yeah. Well, that's the new thing. So just to back up, because I didn't really answer the question, but so I have a full record in the can. That's the Greg Marra solo thing, like I've done for the last 15 years. But I just decided that, look, I'm getting too old and I've always wanted to put this kind of pop punk shred album out. And I've got a ton of really simple songs. And I just thought, look, I got to do it now because I'm not getting any younger, for one, but I just really want to. And, for what I would consider to be like an independent, low-level guy, I don't have a ton of marketing behind me for tour support. So for me to always go out and play these one-off shows or, I'll play a week or two here and there, that's basically self-funded. So, and then when you have attendance that's decent for an instrumental act, it's cool. But when you break even on something like that, it's kind of like heartburn. It just doesn't, it's not, you enjoyed what you ate, but it's not fun afterward, But, so, I just thought, look, why don't I do this thing that I've been always really wanting to do? It's kind of in my heart now. So that's what I did. Like I said, I've got a full record shelved, and I'm going forward with this new, band. It's myself on vocals and guitar, I write all the music and I do all the recording and everything here. And then Bjorn Englund from Tony McAlpine's band is on bass. Nice. He's done the Dio Disciples. They just did Wacken this last summer for, I don't know, $60,000 or something like that.
He's not too shabby.
No, he's great. And Mike Hansen, who's been in George Lynch's band, and he's in Hurricane and some other bands. And, you know, separate, Bjorn and I have played together a ton over the last 10 years. We had Jeff Bowders on drums for some shows and opened up for Michael Schenker over the years. And then, you know, Mike Hansen's been my solo project drummer for 3 or 4 years now, and played in Bouillet with me with the Bruce Bouillet band. So Mike, you know, like I said, separately, we've all had our things that we've done, you know, but now it's like, it just seems natural. And, you know, for this thing to hit the ground running with this many views, like almost a little over a week, it just gives us a lot of motivation to keep going with it. But
for sure. We touch the world, so everybody go out and check that out. And what I'm going to do on the show here is I'll put a post for the YouTube video.
Put the link up, yeah.
And when he sent it to me, I don't know if it was released when you sent it to me.
No,
I think it was still private. And Greg starts singing, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And let me just tell you, man, it's a very cool video. Very cool.
Oh, thanks, man.
Now, to shoot that, because I'm really curious about that side. Was that a costly process? Because I mean, it's a very professional done video, and you know, I know my daughter's into the whole video thing,
right.
And I know it isn't cheap to get people that know what they're doing to do that. So
yeah, it's a great question, and I definitely I'm trying to operate like an independent record label would. So that means I bought all the cameras, I bought all this recording, the video editing software and all the plugins, and I learned how to use it.
You got
just because I did seek out a third party to edit the video, and it was unreasonable. It just if it takes me twice as long to do what they were going to do with just plugins, basically, I thought, you know what, let me just take my time. It did take me like a month to edit the thing, but just because you have to. You know, I put it down for a couple days and I'll go back to it because I want to feel like I'm looking at it with fresh eyes, you know, and then I want to edit each frame. You know, I'm not editing each frame, but I want it as if I were looking at each frame for color, aesthetics, and visual, you know, like movement. And, you know, I just wanted to make everything like, you know, we have a 2-second click through, you know, patience level now with looking at YouTube and stuff. Everybody's clicks through so fast that I thought, why don't I just make every frame seem like something that you could look at and there'd be something fun to look at. But I basically hired a guy to just hold my cameras. You know, there was a guy that came and just kind of zoomed in and out. We did like 5 takes, and then all of the onboard like guitar shots, like the cameras mounted on the guitars. We did like 2 or 3 of those. Mm-hmm. And then it was shot in my living room. I mean, so I didn't have to go, you know, scout a location or pay for a location. So I just, like I said, I bought a whole lighting kit, and we shot it in one night at my house in my front living room, and it took me like a month to edit it.
Wow.
So that's that.
Well, I can tell you this, you know, Adam Carolla, the king of all podcasts, he has a new documentary out called The 24-Hour War. And he funded the whole thing, $450,000.
Holy crap!
And when it came down to doing the trailer, they were going to send it out to a company. Now a trailer, right? What are you talking? Maybe 2 minutes?
Yeah.
They wanted $17,000.
Oh my God!
To do a 2. He said, "Okay, I've got edit bays and I've got guys." He said, "Go in there." Their total cost was $750.
To do the trailer.
To do the 2-minute trailer that was going to cost them $17,000. So when you outsource that stuff, they chew it up pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's like Yngwie's wife is his manager, and I'm totally on board with that because who could better sell her husband than, you know what I mean? Like that's the best person. I could sell myself the best because I have a vested interest And the other guy, I feel like, is always going to be punching a clock, no matter how much he likes me or thinks it's going to be cool for his, demo reel. It's not. I feel like you got to do it yourself. And I hopefully there'll come a day when I'll be too busy to do it myself. But I think right now at this level, I just don't want to give up the control, or, I'll throw my money into marketing dollars and not someone that can edit faster than me.
Yeah, that's a smart move, man, because, Rick Emmett did that with Triumph.
Oh, really?
Mm. And when you used to get a Triumph album, I heard, I've never looked, but when I'll have to look. But if you got an old album and it had the management number on there, when you called that, you were calling Rick's house.
Wow.
And then I was listening to some, what was the name of that show that used to come on at night, late night, and they would interview the rock stars? It was not the King Biscuit Flower Hour thing, but there was
it was more of a concert thing.
Yeah, well, it was more of just an interview process. No, it was. I'll think of it. But anyway, the guy he spilled the beans. Right. And the guy, there's Emmett is in the studio with the guy. Right. And he goes like this. He goes, so when they call this number, they're getting your house. And he goes, what the hell? He's like, so
gotta change the number now.
Yeah. So he was getting bombarded with fans calling him at that point.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow.
But, he said the reason that he did that is because exactly what you said. When you put that other guy in there, the vested interest kind of falls off a little bit, because it's not, it's like, well, look, I've got 7 people I'm managing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
you get 1/7 of my time and attention, during an 8-hour day.
Yeah. And Triumph never got that shake. Yeah. That that the other Canadian bands did.
But I mean, there is only so long you can do that. But if you do that, it gives you it's very good experience, just like the video editing or audio recording, things like that. It gives you just another feather in your cap. But when you absolutely have to start bringing in other people,
that when they're bullshitting you.
Exactly. You got enough experience to go, no, dude. No.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly right.
Oh, by the way, here's my video that I did.
Right.
In my living room.
Right. Do you remember this video from Def Leppard, Me and My Wine? I don't know if a lot of people know of that, but
what album was that on? Was that on Through the Night?
Oh man, it was kind of like right before Pyromania came out.
So High and Dry, probably.
Yeah, it probably was.
Maybe.
Called Me and My Wine, and they did it in a flat in the UK somewhere. And it was just the coolest video of them, getting up in the morning and just jamming and walking through the house. It was pretty cool. There's a whole story behind that video, and I kind of thought it would be cool to have that. So this video that we did had a storyline, and we had some young actors and stuff. And then when I started looking at it, I was like, if this is the introduction to this new band, you're going to be confused. So I just what, let's put out the performance video and just be done with it. But that was what I was thinking, is that, that was pretty cool how Def Leppard had this 0 budget video with one camera, and they put this song out. Check it out. It's called, it's Me and My Wine. It's a fun video.
It's on the High and Dry album, came out in 1981. You can see it out on YouTube. I just pulled it up. But yeah, it's, that's what I thought. I thought it was on that album. That was when Pete Willis was still with the band, who by coincidence and ironically was Paul Gilbert.
That's awesome.
That's funny. I like that you actually took the time to think about that, the concept of it, and go, it's going to confuse people.
Sure.
Even though that was the idea that you wanted to present, you were able to take a step back and you go, no, this is going to confuse people. We probably shouldn't do that.
Right. There's so many things like that, I'm trying to think as if I'm an independent record label. And I've listened to a lot of your other podcasts, and I'm constantly listening to interviews with other artists that are like myself or, that genre. And you always hear people say, you think, like I was just listening to Alex Skolnick with I think it was Eddie Trunk, and he flattened it all out, and he said, look, with my jazz band, I buy, there are some records that were put out by a label, in quotes, whatever, and I had to buy them so I could sell them. And for someone that says, that's a huge name, Alex Skolnick, I mean, he might not be like a dinner time name, but I think he's played in Testament, that they're known worldwide. I would consider him to be a big name in the industry. And for him to say that, I just kind of felt like, well, let's use that as kind of like the benchmark of how I'm going to do this. Just think of each element of how an independent would do it,
Yeah, that's, listening is a good thing, especially listening to people that have already been there and done that,
Yeah.
And it's funny. It is a household name because we were just talking about Alex before we got it on the phone with you. So
right on.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to clear up one thing, because when I saw Greg at NAMM, I asked him the question, what was the car on Collective Disorder album? The song is called A Swift Kick. It's the opening track.
Okay.
And at the beginning, there's this exhaust of this car. And I'm like, dude, what was that? And it was a Cadillac, correct?
Wow, it's a vintage Cadillac, yep, with the big bubble, bumpers on it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
So if you have that album and you want to know what that car was, that was a good old American Detroit Iron from a Cadillac.
A lot of it.
Couldn't have got a bigger car, I'm sure. So that's what that was.
That's
and
pretty cool.
It opens the song and ends the song, so it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the Fishman, or do you want to talk about the Fractal?
These are both interesting.
I'd rather talk about Fishman.
Okay.
I like the Fractal. I use it for demos and stuff, and it makes it to tape, 10% of the time. But I'm not currently working with those guys at any capacity. So I'll just say that I think the people that know that product and use it well, I think they got their own game. But
now we know you're a Friedman guy.
Go ahead.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, the new song has 2 mics on a Friedman cab through the big 100-watt BE100. So it's like, that's it for me. I mean, mics on a cabinet.
Yeah, you like the air.
And the BE, in case people don't know, is Brown Eye.
Yeah.
Twisted Dave.
Which is just... It's an Eddie Van Halen reference, but we know what the Brown Eye is.
Right. Exactly.
So I guess go ahead, man, and give us the little Fishman thing.
Yeah.
We love those guys.
We were hanging in their booth at NAMM, and that was a
Greg Koch.
Yeah, that was Richie Fliegler.
Yes,
sweetheart of a dude. Love him.
Yeah, man.
And we saw Larry Fishman came out and said hi.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
And Greg, you're an endorser for those guys, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's been like maybe 2 years now.
Awesome.
But I always had my favorite set of Duncans, the Custom 5, and I think pretty much every guitar they put out as OEM is like a 59 in the neck. It always seems like they have the 59 in there somehow. Mm-hmm. So I was used to use the Custom 5 or the JB.
Sure.
But this is the classic Fluence set that I'm using, and each pickup has 2 voices to it. So you just pull up a knob on my guitar, it's a toe knob, and you get the 2 different voices. One to me seems a little hotter, like kind of like a beefed up JB or something, and one's more of like a classic PAF. To my ear, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if you look on the website, they'll go into detail and all the engineering speak, but as a guitar player,
that's what it's doing for you.
A Goose JB to me.
Yeah, that's what it's doing for you. That's cool.
Yeah, I remember when not to go, it's still on topic, but when we saw Greg Koch, he goes, I don't know, there's like engineered trusses and, there's things in his Greg Koch way.
Right.
So when you pull up on that knob, there's small people in there. They're switching wires, and
he pulls from this cornucopia of thoughts that I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's like probably best that we don't know where it comes from.
Exactly. So I guess go ahead, man, and take us through the tone. And this is an Ibanez Prestige.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah. And the one I'm playing right now is the Koa Top one from 2015.
Oh.
It's a Prestige.
It's an RG.
It had,
right?
Yeah, it's an RG. Yep.
Okay.
See if I'm recording here. I got it going. So, I am definitely going through the fractal right now just as a means of ease, so I'm not blowing out my back end here.
Gotcha.
But to me, it's always different through different systems as far as, digital to tube. It's completely different. But, as far as like a rolled off bridge sound, this is, I think, voice 2 we have this wired. And that's on the AXFX, you're hearing the BE, what would be like the same as what my 100-watt head is. I mean, this is supposedly the same thing. Cool. So that's voice 2 and a little bit of a rolled off volume. I'm just going to go up to 10. So that's voice 2. I've got it wired for the default at voice 2, meaning the tone, that there's a push-pull on the tone. Mm-hmm. And if I'm in the down position, which is, like my default, it's wired so that it's voice 2. So it's hotter.
It's hotter. Okay. And you can hear we could hear the compression come in. Now, what the listeners will hear will definitely be a bigger difference, but we can hear it.
I like the way the volume control responds, or the way it responds to the volume control. You could. It wasn't only a little bit more volume, but there was a little bit more girth to it. At least that's what it sounded like.
And you could hear the compression.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of like how a real tube. Although if you were going through the real one, we would hear
real tubes.
Yeah, dramatically.
Happen. You feel it too when you play. Obviously, I mean, it's night
we wouldn't
and day.
be able to talk to you. That would be the
the
problem.
You wouldn't be able to hear anything. It'd be killing it. But so that's that. And I don't know that there's. I mean, truthfully, in the mix, I think you can hear a difference recorded because I'm considering this to be a recorded sound.
Yes,
since it's going through an 80 converter. It always would, but in this case, it's just if I were to go to voice 1, you're not going to hear it over the phone or anything like that. And even recorded, if you A-beat it, I think you'd hear a difference. But just hearing it live, I'll play it just the same way I would have before. Okay. So this is voice 1 now. So you can't really tell a difference. And full on. So it's like it's inaudible at that point, just because it's a recorded tone.
Sure. But, go back to 2. Go back to 2.
Back 2 real quick.
Okay, so I'll go full. You want full volume or half rolled?
Roll back.
Okay, let's go roll back. Let me turn up a little bit. So that's just me turning the DAW up. So this is voice 2, and then voice 1.
It's a little chimier.
Yeah. It is definitely. It's a different voice, and I think there's got to be less gain, or however they stack the gain in a PCB board. I don't know how that works exactly, but I think it's like 48 really thin layers of PCB board. Like I said, I'm not an engineer, but when you see the breakdown on their website, you see how they've sandwiched these layers of
it's amazing.
This programming. It's killer, man. And it doesn't sound to me like I'm not going to use the other brand that's supposedly an active pickup, but to me that doesn't sound like that. I've had the Ernie Ball Lukather guitar, and that pickup that's in that, I think it's whatever they call it, 85 and an 81, whatever they call those pickups.
Yes,
they just seem like if you were to look at this is what it seems like, and it might not be doing this, but when I play that Brand X, let's call it Brand X,
sure,
which is an active pickup, it seems to me like if you were to look at the transient on a waveform, it would just be clipped. It would be like pegged into like +6, and then they just clipped it off. Seems like to me when I would play those pickups, they were cool for live because it's very pushed and goosed, but I never liked the fact that the dynamics never seemed to be there. It was like you could have a little bit of gain or you could have all the gain, and there's nothing in between.
Yeah. That is the number one complaint about that company, because you roll off and it's like, well, nothing's changing. You know, it's not like it's doing what the real thing does, which is you get less of that. And then, but the way that thing is because it is pushing that signal down, that pickup is not, there's no dynamics going on between it and the volume. It's just, hey, I'm giving you this all the time.
Yeah. I'd like to see that on a scope to see
what it's doing,
what it's doing there, and if it's just because there is, even when you roll halfway down, there's still so much signal coming into the amp that it's really not letting the amp change.
Sort of like turning. So you say you have a distortion pedal, right? And you turn the distortion all the way up, and you just adjust the volume. Nothing changes.
Right.
It stays the same distortion. It's just the volume gets louder.
It's louder or lower distortion.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, but with the Fishman, through the trusses and the small people that move the wires inside there, they figured out a way to make it work like an actual pickup.
It's pretty ingenious. I mean, it really is. There is a preamp involved with them too, but I think it's just actually to bring the level up to what would be a standard guitar output, because I don't think they can get that much output from just the layers of PCB. There's output, but I don't think the level can be, electromechanically generated that high. You have to bump it with a preamp of some sort.
Sure.
And then I'm not sure whether the two levels that like mode 1 and mode 2, I don't know if that is changing in the preamp or if it's changing in the amount of...
I think it's changing in the amount, if I remember correctly.
The amount of taps on the...
Yeah, I think Richie told me. He said that what they do is because it's so precise... that they can actually say, okay, we want 10,000 windings as opposed to 15,000. And I'm just making up a number. Right? So say if it was something, they can actually say, eliminate this piece, but it doesn't change, you don't get the buzz. You don't get anything.
It still remains exactly the same construction and function.
And then they're able to
just a part of it.
Then they're able to do inside there too, with all that magic. They can change the EQ.
Yeah, well, I think that's in the solid state part of it. I would imagine
that is absolutely in that. But
it's
the crazy,
a pretty unique technology.
That's the crazy part. I mean, they really redesigned something that nobody has ever been able to redesign. Because I mean, it's a microphone ultimately,
right?
But they've been able to manipulate it, but kind of keep it like it's real. It's so weird.
The thing that's cool about it, I just from a dumb guy guitar player, I mean, honestly, if I just plugged into a guitar and through my favorite amp, you can just feel the dynamics, and it feels like kind of everything is nice and crystally clear. You don't feel any flub anywhere. On the low end, it's nice and tight. In the middle, you can hear the clarity there. And on the high end, it's not harsh. So as just a guitar player, not trying to look at, frequencies or anything, it just feels right, and it just gives you a little bit more. You know what I mean? The clean sound a little cleaner, the dirty sound a little cleaner. And
well, it's
I dig it, man.
Good pickups. I always say you can hear that separation, right? Like you can play an entire chord, and you can hear every note. Yeah, and that to me is a good pickup, because there's a lot of pickups that can't do that.
And like I always said, when I turn down, I want it to get cleaner. I want to be able to have the amp
do its thing,
and receive a clean signal, not just less of a dirty one coming out of the pickup. Pickups that are really hot and overwound. It's really hard to get clean up. Yeah, it's hard to get a very good clean sound out of them. I mean, hot, great.
Take a Seymour Duncan Invader, which looks like it has lug nuts on top of it, right?
Right.
I had one. You cannot make that pickup go clean.
Yeah.
I don't care where you put it. You could put it in your pocket. It wouldn't get clean. Now, the one thing that was really impressive to me and Jeff, because we had not heard the demo in person, was when we were at NAMM and Greg Cock came out. He had a what was that amp that he was? It was a little combo. Was it the?
Was he playing a Coke?
Yes.
Yes.
He
Coke,
was playing.
Cock.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He was playing one of those. I think it was like a 110, 112, something like that. Yeah. And he had his Telecaster with his set in there. And when he hit that button, we were like, "That is a crazy compare. I mean, it really had a night and day kind of definition. Yeah. And that was the part that blew us away because we were like, this is the exact same set of pickups.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a hotter set.
It was like somebody just went up and threw a set of pickups in it, and all of a sudden, or like he had a boost pedal or something.
Well, yeah, it kind of worked like a boost pedal.
But it even gave it some different tone to it, if you remember correctly. Right. It was like a different voicing, and it was crazy. I mean, and then
those are, I think, voiced for him too.
Yeah. But that's the beauty about it.
Yeah, but Greg, I got to ask you, do you use pedals at all, and how do you find this working with the pedals?
I was just going to say that. Yeah, usually if I have, like, for instance, I just got an Ibanez that had, for whatever reason, they put in a custom 5 in the bridge, and like I said, the 59s in the neck. And I love Seymour Duncan. Some of them I don't like, but for the most part, those are the ones I like. You always for me, I always have to have a bump before the input of the amp. So I use the EP booster from Exotic Effects. I've been using that for 5 years or whatever. Sometimes I'll use the Tumnus from Wampler. I'll pop that in. But you always got to have that starting point of, having a stage of gain in front of the amp. That's what at least that's what I feel comfortable with because, I have that nice compression on the notes as opposed to having something that feels clean and, and I like that nice, saturation into the input of the amp. That's just me as a player. So I use the EP booster in front of the amp, and with the Fishman, it just you don't have to have as much, So if I were using the Custom 5 from the Seymour Duncan, I'd have to really use a lot of the booster, like maybe 75% of what it'll give me, in order for me to feel comfortable. Because I don't like the amp to necessarily have all the gain either. I want the gain on the preamp of the BE100 at like 50%. So it's not all the way, saturating the preamp tubes or whatever. And then I'll just compensate with master volume and crank it up, so that's the difference as far as like the pedals from like a Fishman to like a passive Duncan. It just seems like you just need less. It's already kind of there. You have the dynamics, but you're already, the pickup's just going to goose the front of the input right off the bat. So I need much less of that EP booster when I use the Fishman.
Cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, it just obviously has a hotter signal.
Now, I know that they make a couple versions. They make a Strat. They make a set for the Strat that has the adapter for the tremolo cover plate on the back. And then for a Les Paul, they replace the plate, the cover, the control cover with their battery pack / USB, right? And that's where the batteries are. Now, on your Ibanez, how did they do it? Did they use that little accessory thing that allows you to put the USB into, or do you change out your battery?
Yeah, well, when I got these, I could have put a 9-volt in there if I wanted. I've got an Explorer that has a 9-volt in it, like a, I don't know, whatever Ibanez calls their Explorer, Destroyer, I think.
Yeah. And
that one has a 9-volt in it, and it lasts forever. In fact, that 9-volt is also got an LED kill switch that's also hooked up to the 9-volt. So they're both drawing power off the 9-volt. So just for an experiment, I wanted to see how much can you pull off just a regular 9-volt battery from the Fishman and the kill switch. So far, it's given me a ton of life. With this, the lithium-ion battery and all my other Fishman loaded guitars, it gives you there's like a little battery pack in there, like a little lithium-ion battery pack, and the little mini USB charger port goes right through the back of your plate on the back of your electronics cavity.
Yeah.
And that gives you, honestly, with this guitar I'm playing right now, they said it was 200 hours, which I don't know. Honestly, I left it plugged in for like 2 months. Because when it's plugged in, it's using the battery.
Yeah.
2 months. 2 months later, the battery finally died. Just because I was like, I got to do an experiment with one of these to see if it is 200 hours. So I don't know how many hours are in a month, but it took me 2 months to...
a lot more than 200.
to kill it, yeah. No, it was awesome. 2 months later, man, the thing finally didn't work, but... That's a lot of hours.
So our listeners can feel comfortable in playing a 2-month set.
Yeah.
Never running out of juice. And that's 24/7.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, the other company that uses a battery they have a tendency when they go bad. I mean, it doesn't fall off gracefully. And having the thing where you can just use a USB charger. I mean, and it doesn't. How long does it take? An hour to charge fully?
If I'm topping it off, I mean, usually within a half hour, the red light will turn green.
Okay.
But for this, I didn't look at it, so I don't know how long it took. But I think it's got to be maybe 2 or 3 hours, like an iPhone.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's my guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But you get that many hours out of it.
Right.
And the idea of not having to throw a 9-volt in. Well, see, that's the other side of it too that I really like is that they give you those options. So you can either use their lithium-ion converter kit, or you can do, if you have a Les Paul or Strat, or the Tele, the plates are already there, right. So you don't have to even, it's all just plug and chug. But then if you have, a different guitar like the Ibanez, they have that adapter, and it just sticks, literally you drill a hole through your plate, that little USB port goes right in there, sticks to the back side of it, then the battery sticks to the back side of it.
That's cool.
And then everything else is replaced. All your electronics are replaced, and there's no soldering. That's the cool part. Cool. Yeah, because you can. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
I think you have to solder.
Yes, you have to solder the.
Generally, you can't put all the electronics into most guitars without some form of soldering.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of plugs, so you can do all kinds of. They have plugs, but they also have some soldering that has to go on.
Well, anybody that wants to get it is going to figure out what they need to do. For
their
guitar,
yeah. And let me just tell you, they have a great set of guys over there that know that hardware and can walk you through anything.
Yeah,
and they're really good about that. Yeah, they want to make money.
Yeah, but doesn't everybody?
So they're not going to let you hang out there, flailing in the wind, going, "I don't know how to do this."
So Greg, do you have any? You probably don't have a 2-month tour lined up where you can keep your guitar plugged in all the time. But are you going out and playing live anywhere? Anybody can see and hear the new material anytime soon? Anything planned?
Well, yeah. I mean, the idea, like I said, is to not have to spend $10,000 on tour support. That's the first step. So I think since we have some traction, the band is called Plenty Heavy, so it is a band. So the idea is to have the guys that are in the band be on the tour. So that's who you're seeing when you come out.
Cool.
I know Bjorn just ended with Tony McAlpine. The Passion and Warfare tour, they opened up for that here in the U.S. And I know they're playing some dates in Mexico in January. I just feel like if I spend, here's my goal. I'll tell you. Hopefully, I don't have egg on my face this time next year. But the goal is to get one more song out before the end of the year, as far as a single, and hopefully we'll get the same traction in all the same markets. And I would like to get overseas distribution. Of course, shopping it to a label would mean having a full record available. And right now, we have 2 songs, and I have drums for like 3 more that are in the same vein. So a long answer for your question is, I'm thinking sometime in February, March, we'll have a full album. We can have something we can present to other markets besides just the U.S. Since it's a vocal band, even if we do tour support, it'll be a lot easier to book those shows because you don't have to pick and choose small acts to begin with, and as much as I would love to be on the Steve Vai tour, there's probably some buy-in to that. There's probably some tour support money that you have to come up with in order to do that tour. So it just makes it easier for us to say, okay, it's not just an instrumental band. We'll probably have a couple where we kind of go off without vocals and stuff, but for the most part, I'd like to have the full album ready to go, like February, March of next year. But since the first single's out and it looks like people don't hate it, we can keep going with it.
It's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Wow, we don't suck.
Let me tell you, man, it's a great song, great video, and we'll have it up there. And every one that you release, I'll make sure that it goes up on the front of the page there, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
We'll throw it down the road for you because, dude, you kick ass on this stuff, man. And
thanks.
And you have those great Fishman pickups in there, which we love. Richie Fliegler and those guys over there. I tell everybody all the time. I say if Richie Fliegler's name is anywhere near it, buy it because obviously it was done right. And that cat does it right, so that's fine by me.
Yeah, and then you got Crazy Coke on it,
Exactly.
He's hard not to like too.
Yeah.
So you said you had a full album kind of in the can. Did you do all the recording yourself? Is it self-produced? Did you bring in a producer or anything, or you just like this is really grassroots kind of thing?
No, I think I'm too much of a control freak to consider like bringing in a producer. I don't even understand that. Like, I think of bands like Metallica needing someone else to guide them. I mean, they made Master of Puppets. They need someone else to figure out how to make a cool song. I don't get that. So yeah, I mean, for that record, I mean, we started with drums. That at some point it will come out. It's finished. It has Jimmy Deanda from the Bullet Boys on drums.
Oh.
Ray Luzier's on a track. From he's in Korn.
Damn, dude.
Mike Hansen's on a track, but obviously he's in this band now. Who else? I've got a bunch of stuff that's just, like I said, where does it fit right now? It doesn't feel like it fits anywhere right now, because if I put that out, then I would have to perpetuate the instrumental thing for another year or whatever it is. And I just, I really right now just want to focus on the vocal band.
Well,
Cool.
It totally makes sense. You know? Not to say you can't throw an instrumental or two in,
Yeah, you can
with
weave
the
them
vocal
in.
thing. Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
If it's kind of in the same.
Absolutely.
You could
same
even
vein.
open up for yourself.
That's a great idea.
It's been done.
Yeah, there was this band called Government Mule that used to open up for the Allman Brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I got to talk to Warren Haynes one night, and I said, "Why don't you open up for the Allman Brothers anymore?" And he goes, "That's like 5 hours of playing. Do you get that?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm old." He goes, "My hands hurt, man." He goes, what the hell?" And I was like, enough said.
That's a long time, man.
I
That's a
got
long
to
time
see that
play.
show.
Really?
I saw, okay, so Dickie Betts, I think he threw his wife against the wall and got thrown into jail, so they replaced him with Ted McCartney.
Jim
McCartney. The guy with the PRS, with the, what the hell's his name? Why am I drawing a blank?
The young guy.
No.
Not Derek.
No.
Sure, I'm pretty sure Jim McCartney was playing with them for a while.
Was it Jim McCartney? I think, yeah. He's got his own signature model, right? I'm going back some years here.
I believe so.
Okay, so
Jim
anyway,
also plays with Cactus.
Yes.
Okay.
So he took his position. He took Dickie's position.
Okay.
Just for a short period of time. And
wait a minute, there was another guy that filled that position. So
okay.
I'll think of it.
Maybe I'm wrong on this, but anyway, because usually I am, Greg.
We'll find out.
So, but Warren was in the band. So anyway, this band opens up, and this is the first time I've ever seen these guys ever. And I'm like, man, this band is really good, and that guitar player is awesome. Well, literally, I think he walked off the stage, changed his shirt, and came right back out. And I said, wait a minute, that was the guy that was in the opening band. And sure enough, he played for another 2.5 hours, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
So
I'm blanking on the guy. And I don't think it was McCartney. I'm blanking on the guy. I will remember it. The minute after it's too late, I will remember. But that's okay.
You talk to Greg, and I'm going to go ahead and do my thing. What I do on the internet. So go ahead.
That's true. What was I asking you? Recording wise, any favorite toys to record with? Like favorite mics or DAWs or preamps or anything that you really have fallen in love with that works really well.
Yeah, it's a 57 through
Jack Pearson.
Just an 80 converter, the Apogee Duet. So that's like really bare bones. And then I've got an SM27 that I run through. It's a 573, which is a Vintech, trying to be a Nev 1073, but in the lunchbox. And then I use a little bit of 550A, which is the API EQ. So those two elements on a Friedman cab is all I have going on. I don't have any outboard other than just that mic pre and that EQ with those two mics. And then I just try to find the right placement after, it took me a week on that on that last song that I released to, just say, look, if I'm going to commit to recording a guitar amp, I'm going to take my time and I spent a couple hours on it every day for about a week, just getting the guitars right, because I wanted it to sound like, an amp in a room and a one guy playing it. Even if there's some mistakes or, playing discrepancies or whatever, I just want it to sound like a guy playing a guitar. And,
You're going for the
the
Van Halen type thing, but back in the day,
Hell
right?
yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, it's funny when you listen to some of those ISO Van Halen things on YouTube. He's got some clam, like, I don't want to say a clam or a mistake.
No, you can say
cool
that.
little things that he's doing that he's just playing, and he's not editing out all the little, idiosyncrasies of him moving around the guitar. It's just, you could tell he put in his 10,000 hours and then hit record, It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
not to say I sound like Eddie Van Halen. I'm just saying that rawness absolutely is what I'm going for.
Well, when they did the first albums, Eddie was petrified to do rhythm tracks. He did not want to dub. He was like, I just want to go. He goes, let's just capture it the way it was. And it was Templeman that said, well, look, man, like Little Dreamer and Jamie's Cry and stuff like that, they had to do this rhythm
You
track.
gotta have some rhythm tracks in there, sure.
He was really against it,
Wow.
and he said, he goes, I don't know, I don't even want to know how to do this. And it's so funny because
he didn't have to know how to do it for the song live.
Exactly.
Right.
So he's just like, can I play it the way we just play it? And Templeman was kind of a genius.
Yeah.
He said, well, look, man, these songs are good, but you need something here and there. So there's only
live, it translates differently.
Yeah, exactly.
The energy makes up for the missing rhythm track.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin kind of overdubs, big difference when you hear them live.
Absolutely.
Because there's 5 guitars. But with Van Halen, it was a little bit more raw, and Templeman knew what he was doing. He didn't oversaturate the rhythm tracks to where it was like...
He just put them where they needed to fill the voids.
Just to fill the hole.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because even you think about it, 1977, 78, recording a bass was a difficult thing. The recording technology was not there to really help the bass be kind of with a loud guitar. That's why he panned them hard left, hard right. Was to kind of get that, give that separation. Although Eddie hated that too.
Yeah.
He said, what if you blow out a speaker in your car? I'm like,
exactly.
You got a shitty car.
And I'm gone. It's the Michael Anthony show.
Right?
Well, there you go.
Well, I didn't say much for Michael because he's like, well, what if you blow the other side? Well I don't care.
Alex will cover the bottom end.
I'm sure you remember this. No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking about the story of, wasn't that Marshall amp that he used, just a loaner amp that was at one of the Pasadena, rehearsal rooms, whatever it was. There's a story out there of that Marshall, it being a coveted, like, what was the special thing about this Marshall? But there was nothing special about it. It was just a Marshall that, I think at one point he put a Variac on it to try to lower the voltage. And but I think that was all smoke and mirrors. I don't think there was anything special about it. It just, he sounded really good. Right out of his hands.
Yeah,
and everybody, it's heavily modified by Jose Arredondo.
Yeah, that guy was like some mystery dude that everybody was searching out.
I think he probably just serviced the amps because, like you were saying, it probably is true that it really was nothing that was heavily modified at all. It was probably a good sounding amp that was serviced. You throw a Variac on that thing, and I used to do the same thing. Used to bring it down to like 90 volts.
Yep,
and they sound like God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the one article that I was talking to you guys about with Tom Wheeler, when we had Tom Wheeler on, Guitar Player released all the Eddie Van Halen articles over the years, and they unabridged it. They didn't
right. They didn't edit anything.
Didn't edit anything. And in there, they asked him about the amp, and he said, I kind of lied about it. He goes, I always wanted to be turning the corner on people, so I told them that this guy in the desert was modifying my amps, and all along he was not really modifying. He did use the Variac.
Yeah.
You can see that in actually a couple of the photos where they were doing their recordings, but outside of that, and he used the Schaefer Vega. Not the replica, but the Schaefer Vega wireless system too, in the studio. That was that was another thing. The same way that Angus did, to capture some of that sound.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there was somebody at one time told me that they had seen whether it was a DS1 or an SD1 or something like that, like inside the rack,
the MXR distortion
like
plus,
mounted, painted black.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, if you remember, he had that bomb. They had a real bomb casing, and they put the Echoplex.
The Echoplexes
what was
in
that?
That
was,
was
see those pictures. It's like, what the heck is that thing?
That was his weirdness, right? Painting stripes on a guitar. He put his Echoplex inside that thing.
Yeah, it was like a stand or something. That's all,
so it could sit by him, so he could do the whole thing where he turned the speed down.
Mm-hmm.
And they did something to the motor in that thing too. That was not the original tape motor.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could go much slower than a standard one.
Interesting.
That's pretty cool.
And going through an Echoplex, that changes things too.
Well, that preamp.
Now Dunlop is making the preamp that used to be in the Echoplex, and it's nothing but a clean boost kind of thing. You could get more out of it than you put into it, and that would goose the front of the amp a little bit. But everybody's got their thing.
Eddie really, when you think about innovation and everything, you got like Hendrix, and then you got Eddie Van Halen. If you're going to go like big names, but Eddie was doing stuff just keeping people on their toes, man, because they were like, is that a keyboard or is that him tapping? What is this? And then the whole guitar thing with putting a switch in the middle pickup and putting that dead pickup in the neck. Yeah. And it was like when they took that pickup apart, the original one, to kind of reproduce it, they were like, this thing shouldn't even work. Because he rewound a Gibson pickup himself. In his house.
Didn't he melt wax or something and potted it too? Or something?
He figured out a way to pot them. Yeah, with surfboard wax. And he said, I melted like 5 of them before I realized how long you could keep it in there.
That's amazing. The thing about Van Halen is I've listened to all those early Van Halen albums, I don't know, countless times at my age now. And I haven't listened to any Van Halen for probably a year. Mm-hmm. Now that we're saying this, just talking about the tone, I'm going to go listen to it right after we're done with this, because it's like, that's all you got to do is it's like mentioning sweets or something. I'm going to need to go get a piece of chocolate after this, because you know what I mean? It's just that whatever that you just sowed that little seed of, I haven't listened to it for about a year. Yeah. But just remembering back at how good it sounded.
Yeah.
It's always the benchmark for great tone and great playing.
I always say
it was when it first came out, that tone was just explosive.
Oh, it still is. Whoa. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But the other piece of that is, I always say, is that if it's timeless, which means we could have this same conversation 20 years from now, and you play that album, you'll be like, God damn.
Yeah, it's still that good. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've heard this song 55,000 times, but it still kind of gets the hair on the back of your neck standing, Mm-hmm. Because it's just literally, it was a lot of coke, but it was, that dude was just off the hip. You talk about jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. That would be Eddie Van Halen, 1978.
There are demos out there too. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you've heard them if you're Van Halen fans, but supposedly it was the Gene Simmons demos or whatever, but there's an album out there that's on YouTube now. I don't think it's like 45 minutes or whatever. And it's of like the demos for that first album. Yeah. And it's great. Oh. And, you just hear it. You're going, man, he had it even way back then.
Sure.
And I don't think Ted Templeman was involved in those demos or anything. But
I was going to say, I'd like to hear it pre-Templeman.
I think it was Gene Simmons.
Really?
Okay.
Because they did. It might have been. Yeah, they did some. Gene Simmons, got the demo, and then they shopped the demo, and they were like, well, they wanted to, but then they didn't. They were like, what are we going to do? Bang on people's doors? Here's our demo. So their popularity became because they would hold parties in a backyard and 3,000 people would show up.
Right. And then he would turn around when he played. Right.
Yeah. He was doing all kinds of stuff on a $350 guitar buy.
Right.
Well, hopefully someday, we'll be going back and listening to one of Greg's cuts and going, yeah, it's still as good as it was before.
Yes. Well, the thing about Greg, and this is the thing, Jeff, and this is why we like Greg, that there's a mid-range knob on the amp. God bless you for that, Greg.
That's where old guitars.
Oh, why is that? Wait, tell me more about what you're saying. That.
Well, we always, when we went to NAMM, and you've been to NAMM, and you hear the 40 hertz hum that comes out of 8-string guitars because it drives us nuts.
You hear kick drum and cymbals, but oh no, that's a guitar.
Yeah.
There's
there's
no real. A guitar is a mid-range instrument. That's where it belongs in the mix.
Yes.
You leave the bottom end. You leave the bottom end to the kick drum and the bass guitar. You leave the top end to the cymbals and the keyboard, and you put your freaking guitar in the middle where it belongs.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, what's funny is, it's cool that you're saying that because. The bass guitar is a big factor in how this guitar sounds on this new track, just because I didn't want the guitar to fill anything below what I think it was like 80 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So as we were looking at it, we were looking at what's the overlapping frequency, and that was one of the big deals. I always like the separation of, when you listen to certain records, if you listen for the bass, you'll hear the bass. Yep. You'll hear what's happening. It's not hidden somewhere behind something else. Mm-hmm. And if you listen for the guitars, you'll hear all of the information for the guitar. So if that was a compliment, it's a huge one.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that's great that you actually thought about that and went in and consciously and purposely went, there can be too much of this, just because you can doesn't mean you should. It makes for a much cleaner and professional sound if you put the instruments where they belong, and not everybody step on everybody.
Well, it's like this. Sometime, I don't know when, but it took place in the mid '90s, I would say, because you had bands you had bands like Slayer and Anthrax and Megadeth and even Metallica, where they had the mid-range was there. They were playing through Marshalls, and you can't get rid of that when you play through a Marshall unless you heavily modify it, and then it won't be a Marshall anymore. Right. But those guys are still that way. Mm-hmm. If you see Anthrax, they sound like Anthrax because, of course, the hands, but the other piece is that they are old school guys.
Right.
Yeah.
We tell people all the time, don't be afraid of it. It's kind of funny. When you add more mid-range, you actually get louder. You go out further.
The problem is you hear what you're actually doing.
Yeah, well, that's where you can... Then you got to be good.
Then you got to be
good. Then you got to be like Greg. You got to know how to bring the goods.
When I first started making when I first started making even the Buddhist and then the East, people would go, I'm not good enough to play that amp.
Oh, let me just tell you something. Okay, I own one of those goddamn Buddhas, and that thing has busted my balls more than any person I've ever met.
Yeah.
And
that is true.
But what's good about it is that it's made me, I feel, a better player. Mm-hmm. I had to go back and kind of go, oh my God, because I don't have anything on the floor, so it's like, this is all the amp.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's hard, man, when your stuff is telling on you every note.
When you're a little sloppy. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that was the joke at NAMM. If you want to keep guitar players out of the booth, put a Buddha in there. Because you can tell the guys that can play from the guys that are just afraid to. Oh, I have no idea. You know what I mean? That's funny. Yeah,
that is true, man.
Yeah, well, there you go, Jeff.
It kind of weeded them out. It weeded them out. That's why in our booth we didn't have too many players that sucked for very long.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, for very long.
It's like, oh, that's great. Okay, thank you, and they hand the guitar back. It was great. All right. Well, have we covered anything you want to touch base on, Greg, that we haven't?
We will definitely have
No, I mean, this was fun. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, man. Anytime. You have a new website. You launched it the other day, correct?
Yeah, I've always had the gregmarra.com. There's this guy at Google that desperately wants that because he also is Greg Marra, but he hasn't been successful in taking it from me. But it's gregmarra.com.
All right.
And then the band website is plentyheavy.com, which if you go to gregmarra.com, you'll find that because it's right on the main page there. But yeah,
awesome.
Well, I do that all myself too because I'm not about to pay anyone to point and click.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much good of templates. There's so many good templates and technology out there. You can actually handle it yourself. Like I can almost do it.
Like I do.
Right there you go. You do. That's right.
So and going to your websites, on the episode. They'll be there. Both of those links will be there, and they'll live in
perpetuity.
That's right, when it goes out to the archive. So everybody listening, definitely go there, click on the links, check out Greg's stuff. He's got, you got 2 CDs, right? You have the one where Bruce is on, and then you have the Collective Disorder, correct?
Yeah, I've got a full length. Yeah, the first one's Glenn Sobel on drums, me and Glenn on the first one. That's 2004.
Okay.
The second one was 2012. That's a vocal record with a bunch of guest players on it.
Yep.
That's a full length. Then Bruce and I did a track with Ray Luzier in 2013.
Oh, okay.
And then earlier this year, I put out a song with Jimmy DeAnda on drums and Bjorn on bass. And now we have Plenty Heavy, which is a band. And that's how I'm hoping to brand myself for the next however long it lasts.
Nice.
Well, good on you, man, because, bands, guys of your caliber playing and all usually are, jumping from this act to that act to this act to that act. And you never really get to hear the band thing, and so it's kind of nice.
It gives you time to put your own voice out there.
Yeah, and that's, that's a cool thing because you're doing the singing and you sound like a complete control freak, which is really good.
That's awesome.
But
you got it.
But you know what? We're getting 100% of what you want to deliver, and that is that doesn't happen very often.
No,
usually there's
good.
some guy standing over you pointing.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on the other side of the country, but Greg, I'm pointing at you to play us out. Play us out, man.
All right. Wow. I'll edit that out later.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
all right, man.
man.
Thank you so much for being on with us. Have a great rest of the day, and much luck with Plenty Heavy, man.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Take care, man. Well, and there you have the Restory.
Love that guy, man.
There you go. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Fun guy.
Yeah. He's so humble.
Mm-hmm.
He's always like, thank you. And I'm like, dude, thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to give the Plenty Heavy stuff a good spin when it comes out.
Absolutely. And like I said, all that stuff, I'll even put the videos up on our page.
Oh, cool.
And he can check all that. Yeah, everybody can check that out.
There you go.
See, it gives you more reason to come to our website so you can see this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's ampsandaccesscast.com. See, I never say it at the end of the show. I always say it at the beginning. So I just want to say it, at the end of the show.
Right.
And
you
maybe go to the site.
and maybe the fans of his new video will be new fans of the show. Somehow that might, cross-pollinate there. So
absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
All right.
So until next time, my friend.
Of course, because we'll have new fans.
I'm Mick Marcelino.
I'm Jeff Bober.
And we're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter at Amps and Axes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaccesscast.com. Thanks for listening.